So, geography. The subject every UPSC aspirant thinks that they understand, they love. So, I'm Anubhav Saransh, and this is the GS Room, where the curious meets the serious. Why do UPSC aspirants treat geography like gym workout?
In geography, if you take Indian part, so there you will find more factual questions. And even in the physical geography of the world part, so there also you will find the factual data. So these facts plus concepts are something which create a fears to them.
Geography actually easy, or do we make it complicated through fancy terms and maps, which creates a sense of unnecessary fear?
Geography is neither easy nor that difficult.
Soil, vegetation, climate types, why do these topics feel so scattered?
See, when you talk about a climate, it's an umbrella term.
Geography. The subject every UPSC aspirant thinks that they understand, they love, until things like jet streams and monsoons and tectonic plates come and ruin their mood completely. But you know what? Geography is also a subject that has the capacity to massively boost your score in the exam. And that's what we're here today, to talk to our esteemed faculty of geography, Basavaraj Sir. Welcome, Basavaraj Sir. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. And honored to be present here to interact regarding geography subject.
Thank you so much, sir. Sir, a simple question to start with. Why do UPSC aspirants treat geography more like a gym workout, right? Firstly, it's heavy, then it's painful, then maybe suddenly it starts making sense one day.
See, the reason behind that is in geography, if you take Indian part, so there you will find more factual questions. And even in the physical geography of the world part, so there also you will find the factual data. So these facts plus concepts are something which create a fears to them. And apart from that, when you talk about application part, that is where if you are good enough in linking concept with the application, then they will be very easy for them to answer that. So that's why when there is no coordination or lack of coordination, that becomes very difficult for them. In that case, they will think it is a bit difficult, nothing more than that.
So, sir, is geography actually easy, or do we make it complicated through, fancy terms and maps, which creates a sense of unnecessary fear? What do you think?
To be very honest, sir, geography is neither easy nor that difficult. So to be very frank, I can say it is a moderate one. But over a period of a time, when you make a preparation, if your strategies are good, if your flow is good, then it tends to become easy. If there is some problem with understanding of the concepts and application, then it tends to become a bit difficult. So that's why from moderate to easy, it depends on your preparation part.
Okay, so it's not difficult at all is what you're saying. There you have it, it's moderate, not
difficult.
It's
a moderate one, we can say.
Let's begin from the basics, sir. Physical geography. So why do students feel it is so scientific in nature? Is this a myth or is it true?
We can say that rather than myth, it is a real factor that physical geography is almost all a combination of concepts where your science approach is required there. So part of that where scientific data is required. And moreover, when you take up the other parts like interior of an earth, when you're talking about cosmology, when you're talking about the oceanography, so the recent developments which have been done in SNT are applicable to understand and study that, like GPS which is required, or when we talk about artificial intelligence which is required. So these recent trends make it a bit difficult. But overall, I don't say that the physical geography is difficult. Only thing is you have to be consistently making notes on that by creating something like mind maps, flow charts. So the keywords, if you are making them in your datas, in your notes, then it becomes easy for you.
Great. So we should create notes, especially on keywords.
Yes.
So, sir, what's the smartest way to study climatology? Because half the students get lost between these cyclones and anti-cyclones and jet streams.
Perfect.
What is your suggestion?
See, the climatology is what I feel is a completely dynamic entity. Okay. Because when you talk about cyclones, so recent cyclones making landfalls, the changing nature of cyclones where it is becoming rapid intensification, or take an example of the phenomenons like AMOC, Atlantic Meridional Overturning Current. So all these types of events, or say the jet stream and its changing patterns. So all these are dynamic in the nature. But if you read only dynamic, then the basics will be missing. So hence you should be good enough in basics. over the basics, you should develop the application part, that current related trend to be linked. So NCERT will give you the basic part, and when you read the current affairs, then that will combine you in that part. So to be very frank, it has to be studied relatively. So what was there 10 years back, what is now 10 years after? And that makes them to understand the concept with a more decent.
So again, the sense of coordination and connection.
Perfect. It is required.
So also, sir, about things like, continental drift, plate tectonics, I mean, these are all nightmares. Or how should one approach geomorphology without literally crying?
Okay. See, when we take these topics, they are core aspect, geomorphology. So when you talk geomorphology, you will always find that there is some variations between them. Take an example of continental drift theory and plate tectonic theory. Of course, both defines the same, that the continents are moving. That is known to every aspirant, but the mechanism involved is different there. In the continental drift theory, he says that the forces are like the polar fleeing forces or gravitational forces are responsible for movement of the plates. Whereas in the plate tectonic theory, they say that convection current is responsible for moving. So you have to again study that relatively, what is continental and what is the plate tectonic theory. And then you should segregate that part, the mechanism involved there and what is the mechanism involved here. So when you read that, when you make linkage of that by creating the mind maps again here, that will be very easy in this part.
Also, sir, soil, vegetation, climate types. I mean, why do these topics feel so scattered? I mean, is there some way where you can link it into a story?
See, when you talk about a climate, it's an umbrella term. So in the climate, you are having temperature, you are having precipitation, you are having humidity, and you are having all those types of abiotic factors which are included in the climate. Right. Now, once you understand the climate of that region, then the climatic conditions defines the vegetation of that area. If rainfall is more, vegetation will be different. If rainfall is less, vegetation will be different. If rainfall pattern is studied, then you will understand flora and fauna. It is linked. Now, some areas where the rainfall is more, it also affects pedogenesis, that is soil formation process. Now, if rainfall is more, then the salts will be pushed downward, translocation part, what we say geographically. So there the soil will be acidic. Now, some areas where the rainfall is less, climatic factor, deserts. So there we find capillary action where the soils will be saline, over irrigation. So hence, once you understand the climate, then you can link that with your soil part or the vegetation part in that. So they are all interlinked. If you read them in isolation, you will never understand geography.
Also coming to, sir, Indian geography. Firstly, why is this portion so scoring if done correctly? And what makes it simpler compared to how students assume it?
See, in Indian geography, geography itself is a multidisciplinary, where it is having the flavor of polity. When you are talking about river disputes, polity is required. When you are talking about human geography, you need to have a social base, urbanization, economic part, agriculture, economic part. So when they have studied all these subjects in general studies, so it means they are having a data. So it means that all the questions they feel that they have read in one way or other way. So only best way is when you consolidate them and put them through the maps and all, then it becomes easy. If you are having current affairs like cropping pattern, impact of government policies or impact of any project, that makes them more scoring in geography of India.
Also, sir, Indian crops, rainfall patterns, rivers, how does one remember these, without memorizing 500 different types of maps?
It's not required. See, when you talk about India, so you should understand that Indian climate or Indian precipitation pattern, we call it as monsoon type. So once you understand the monsoon, like June, July, August and September, a part of an area where you have rainfall more, then you are having October and November, that is northeast monsoon. Tamil Nadu area will be having rainfall, and the percentage of rainfall is also varying. Then again, when you take western disturbances, Punjab, Haryana, Himalaya, so they will be having rainfall in different months. So throughout the year, rainfall will be there in India, but the percentage varies. So based on that, if you analyze which areas or what conditions are required for the crops, for example, if you're talking about rice, so rice can be grown in the areas where the rainfall is more. It means it is the coastal area. So wherever deltas are there, you can put rice. Lower Gangetic plain, you can put rice. You can put about jute cultivation. Dry areas like Rajasthan, Punjab, the natural crop will be oil seeds and all, where it is less water intensive. So once you know these things, you can mark it very correctly. You don't have to by heart that.
There's also a big confusion on mapping. Should aspirants draw maps in every answer or only when required? What is your take on this?
If they are drawing the maps, if it is needed, then it is ideal. Or else they can show them through flowcharts. That is more than sufficient.
Okay.
Because sometimes when they ask, say, for example, food hunger or hunger issues in the world. So in that case, if you're not having a particular data, you can show the world map. Any point you will put in Africa will be associated with hunger part. So that is how it's a way in which they can represent. But not all the answers required maps.
Also, sir, geography overlaps with environment, economy, agriculture, disaster management. Now, how should aspirants make use of this overlap for scoring?
See, as I told you that geography is multidisciplinary in the nature. So once you understand a concept of an event, take an example of landslide, take an example of cyclone, take an example of heat budget. So once you understand these concepts, so they are interlinked with ecology and environment. Like when you're talking about global warming, you have to understand the composition of atmosphere, greenhouse gas, their role and their impact on that. So that is how you link your perspectives of geography with ecology. Now coming to disaster. Now in the disaster, when you're talking about, say, earthquake or cyclones, you first have to define what is that event. No, geography of that area defines the losses, socio-economic losses, deaths. For example, if any cyclone makes a landfall in a coastal area which is densely populated, and if the shape of the coastline is also narrow, so the impact will be more. So geography will help you to understand the losses, and based on that you can write very good answers in that part.
Since we're discussing about human geography just a while back, it is of course a sort of a mystery zone. Population theories, migration, urbanization. What's in your opinion the most efficient way to cover this?
See, when you're reading human geography, you have to make it as a regional approach. So when you make a regional approach, you have to bifurcate that into economic geography and then demography studies. So once you complete your demography aspect, like settlements, like attributes of demography, urbanization and all. So once you are good enough in that, then you link that with your primary activities, secondary activities, tertiary activities, where you will have an idea about the demography and linked with the economic activities, industries, agriculture and all. And after that, when you link to the last topic, then it becomes easy for.
So again, the same, we go back to the story
Yes.
of coordination and linkage, etc. and mind
Linkages.
maps.
It's all about linkage.
Also, how important is current geography? Things like El Nino, heat waves, climate change. How much of it should we keep a track of is my question.
If you see the present trend of UPSC examination, so nowadays they are following the current trend. Like they will ask basics linked with the current phenomenon. Like they may ask, write a note on the volcanoes and also throw a light on present volcanic eruptions. In the same way, they may ask on Earth's magnetic field and the recent phenomenon like South Atlantic anomaly. Or they may ask question on like asteroids, impact of asteroids on the Earth and how to protect the Earth from that. Or it can be like Atlantic meridional overturning current. So all these current related trends are always very important when you are preparing for geography, but you should be good in basics, then you can link with the current affairs part. Maybe landslide, maybe cloud bursting, all those are significant only when you know the proper basic definitions.
I think that's what is said in every subject primarily.
It's required. It's required.
Because dynamic content, of course, is great.
It's required, and moreover, current affairs, of course, plays an important role. And in geography, as it is a multidisciplinary, even the river dispute is also part of geography. Cloud bursting is part of geography. Right? Any mining policy, critical minerals, they are also part of geography. So thoroughly, you have to be good enough in your current affairs.
Also, sir, is NCRT or are the NCRTs alone enough for geography basics, or do aspirants need some other standard books also?
To be very frank, NCRT, if you are reading from class 8 to 10th, you make a note of that. And then class 11th and 12th, you read it like a notes only. Every word is important there. So I think that is more than sufficient for basics. And along with that, if you are having GC Leong, if time permits, some facts are there which are very useful. Like you come across the climatic distributions, or you find the climatic regions of the world, some occupations, some diagrams are there which are holistic in approach. So apart from NCRT, if you are having time, you can go with GC Leong also. But NCRT and GC Leong, I think they are more than sufficient for basics.
Great. So for students, that's a good thing. focusing on NCRT
Yeah,
once again,
and
especially for geography, right? One more thing, sir. What's, in your opinion, the biggest mistake aspirants make while reading NCRTs?
when they are reading NCRT, the mistake what they do is they don't go with the continuity.
Okay.
Right, and they read it as a section wise. So when you read it as a section wise, you won't get a holistic approach. For example, if you are reading climatology in geography, maybe you are reading about clouds. So if you are reading that in isolation without having an idea about oceanography, it becomes a bit difficult. So you should have the continuity. Plus, if you are not able to understand any word or any terminology, they will just skip and move forward. That should not be done. And whatever data you are accumulating, again the same, they have to create a flow chart for that.
Also, since we are on this topic of notes and books, as you said, there is flood of materials with respect to what you suggested right now, NCRT, GC Leong, PDFs, all these Telegram channels, WhatsApp groups, etc. What's that minimum book list or minimal book list that you recommend that these are at least the bare minimum required for the exam?
See, class 8 to 12th, that is mandatory.
Okay.
Then if you are having GC Leong, you can take up. And when you are attending any institution, so whatever the faculty gives, whatever he discusses, whatever he gives some current related part, so that is more than sufficient for you to crack examination. So reduce your content and revise them more. And once you are good in the basics, you increase your horizontal approach. Read current affairs, accumulate that. That will help you a lot. Rather than reading one topic in 10 books, you read one topic in one book and revise that for 10 times.
So I think that's a very important aspect, right? The limited number of sources,
Yes.
8 to 12th NCRT, GC Leong and class notes. I think over the course of so many podcasts that we have been doing, every faculty focuses on the same thing, that don't go and chase for notes, focus on those standard notes and keep revising it. As we always say, that reading one book multiple times rather than reading multiple books just once. That's very well said, sir. And also, how should aspirants make these geography notes? By chapters, by themes, or by PYQ trend analysis? Okay. What do you suggest?
When you are reading geography, you should read it as a chapter wise.
Okay.
But once you have read chapter wise, the first note, the primary notes will be on the chapter wise.
Okay.
But once you have got consolidation of that, once you are having a good grip on that, then you have to create the notes based on the themes.
Okay.
Because there is a relationship which is continued from one aspect to another.
That's true.
Now in UPSC, they will always ask the questions which are related to each other. So at the last stage, when you are going for examination, you should have the datas or the topics which should be theme based.
Theme based.
So that is easy to remember and easy to mark it very correctly.
So start with chapter-wise, but eventually consolidate them in the theme-wise pattern.
That is how one stage, second stage and third stage what we call.
Also, speaking of PYQ, sir, I mean, you would tell me better, has UPSC shifted from factual geography to more conceptual and more application-based questions in the recent times?
Of course, they have changed, because if you see 5 years back questions, so you will find more factual questions like what are ocean currents, right? Now they are asking something beyond that, how they are significant in developing socio-economic perspectives. So along with factual, they are asking current related trends also. It's not that they have deviated. They are also there, and along with that, add-on is done for current affairs.
Also, sir, in prelims as well, geography is always so unpredictable. Now, how can students stay consistent with revisions?
See, here there are certain topics. So that's why I told you, if you are making your notes in the last stage, themes based. So if you are having, say, around 100, 200 themes, so that themes will cover entire part.
And how important is practicing map-based questions for prelims? And I mean, and how often should aspirants revise these maps?
See, if geography is optional, then map work is mandatory. Then map work is also mandatory for your international relations, because if you are good in the knowing the places, then you can mark it very well.
Of course.
So you have to maintain certain areas in the maps, like what we call it as benchmarks, or we say the points which you should not confuse when you are marking them. So something which we call it as the datas which you can store in your subconscious mind. So based on that, if any peripheral topic or peripheral area is also asked, you can mark it very correctly. So you should be good enough in physical map and political map. But it's better to go with the 2 years current affairs in that.
And so then natural disasters like earthquakes, cyclones, floods, what is the best way to study disaster management within geography?
See, when you are making your approach for disaster management, always the questions will be asked based on the disaster plus mitigation impact or management of that.
Okay.
So if you are just writing about the National Disaster Management Authority, pre-disaster management, post-disaster management, that is half an answer. But the physical geography will help you to understand that what exactly is that event, like earthquake, what exactly is that? What is tsunami? How the tsunami is different from the normal perspectives. So you have to a complete idea about that event, and then you can link that with your policies, guidelines which are given by National Disaster Management Authority. If you are reading only those, that will not help you. So before writing any answer, you should have the data about that event, like cyclones. What are cyclones? What are tropical cyclones? How they are formed? Then which geographical area, which region is having an impact? If you are talking about earthquake, what is earthquake? What are body waves? What are surface waves? What is intensity? What is magnitude? Then it becomes easy for you to go ahead with that.
And sir, how can aspirants make their geography answers richer? I mean, of course, diagrams, examples, maps, flowcharts, would they be sufficient, or would you want to add something to it?
Along with that, if you are giving the recent examples, so recent example will be add on to that.
The current context is
Current context. Take an example of earthquakes you are mentioning, right? So earthquake and losses they are asking. So you can just mention about the earthquake which has happened in Afghanistan, the 6.3 magnitude earthquake in the fault line, and you can talk about the earthquake at Kamchatka Peninsula of Russia, and then you can interrelate with each other. And diagrams if you put along with that, like fault lines and all in geography, that needs more addition for that.
Also, what's one geography topic that aspirants always misunderstand? What do you feel?
They feel that when they read one topic, say magnetic field of an earth, so there they will come across the geodynamo mechanism. Say when you're talking about sunspots, coronal mass ejection. So some terms are there which are scientific in the data. So when they read these things, they will find that entire geography is difficult. And moreover, some topics are there like as polity, I'm telling you. So when you're reading any issues, international relations or river issues, you have to be good enough in the articles. So if you write article like 262 article, then only your answers will be correct. So when they read these peripheral parts, they will have a problem with the geography and they will feel that this is very difficult. But when they move holistically, then it will be easy for you.
And so if you had to choose one or the most scoring areas of geography for main exam, what would they be in your opinion?
The main area in the sense you can bet on Indian geography more because it is a holistic approach in that part, and almost every topic you have covered in one way or other way. But this Indian geography will be good only when you are good in some concepts, like when you're talking about monsoon. So you should be good enough in understanding that monsoon mechanism, El Nino, La Nina aspect. Then only you can write. Like they may ask a question on write a note on vagaries of monsoon. So if you know vagaries, if you know monsoon, if you know impact of El Nina, La Nina, Madden-Julian oscillation or Indian Ocean dipole, then only you can write very good answers in that. So I can say that yes, Indian geography is somewhat more scoring, and if you are reading physical geography in that pattern, if you are having the data in the form of flowcharts, that is more than sufficient.
Especially in the recent times, sir, students have often been chasing videos instead of reading. Now, in geography, is video learning helpful or does it create more confusion?
See, rather than video learning, you should be good enough in diagrams. So if you read geography with diagrams, with flowcharts, with mind maps, that will be more easy, because when you are watching videos, I don't think it is more clear part. So even after watching video also, you have to make a homework of converting that entire visual into the writing capacities. Then only it will have a fruitful.
Also, how much integration is needed between, say, geography and then, of course, GS1, GS3 and environment? What do you feel?
Integration in the sense, see, when you talk about GS1, GS2, GS3, there is no such separations are there. You may find a question of geography in paper 3. You may find a question of disaster management in paper 1 itself, like landslides in Himalayas. So almost all, when you are reading geography, you should read it as a consolidation, thinking ecology and disaster management in the mind itself. So all the basic parts will be covered there. The policies you have to read from current affairs. That makes them easy.
Also, coming to that aspect, is daily newspaper reading important for geography? And if yes, how much? Or should we only focus on selective topics? What do you feel?
Rather than daily, you can focus on weekly basis, because you are having, when you are preparing, geography is not the only subject. So you'll be reading many current affairs in that. So in that, obviously you will have geography. So when you make a weekly theme for geography, you will have more consolidation of the topics there. So you can make one attempt in the weekly and one in the monthly part.
And how should aspirants also deal with the saturation of notes? I mean, when we have 10 sources for the same topic, how do we arrive at the solution?
See, that's what in the beginning itself it is told, that reduce your content. So that's why in the first time when you are reading, make the notes chapter wise. So once you have done that, it means you are having consolidation and you are having a grip on that. So once you are having the grip, once you are having that consolidation, then you go with the theme. So rather than writing the same topic for 10 different varieties, you can mention it as one time. For example, if you're talking about, say, I'm giving an example, plate tectonic theory, the bottle, or what we say, the bottom line is that it always moves with convection currents. So in many books, whatever they are given, ultimately it is convection currents. That should be kept in the mind.
Also, sir, I've seen with the introduction of these climate change debates that keep on happening, and stars also coming in, celebs jumping in on these discussions, debates. Has this also changed the way we are studying geography for UPSC now? Does it reflect in the UPSC exam as well?
Yes, it will be there, because see, when we talk about the issues like climate change, of course it is a part of international convention. So when we say UNFCCC, so every year they will have a meeting which we call it as COP, right? So this time it is COP 30. Now they may come out with a declaration, like last time they talked about Belém Declaration. Now certain financial instruments will be there, so you have to remembering them. Now certain policies like carbon neutrality, net zero, and how to work with the fossil fuels, how to phase out that. So all these terminologies are important. Now sometimes when you come across finances also, like last time they discussed about something called as the climatic finance. Now they are moving towards something called as new collective quantified goals. Now you have to segregate them, how they are working and what amount of money is involved there and what policies we are moving towards that. And that is where the questions will be asked on these trends only, which are seen in the current affairs.
If you could redesign the geography portion of UPSC, what change or changes would you make?
To be very frank, the present aspect is excellent, because they are going with a very beautiful combination of concept as well as current affairs. And as a layman person, you can answer it well if you are good in concepts and application, because this geography you are not reading as an optional. So you should always have an overview of application. So that's why the present aspect is, I feel it is excellent.
We have to focus on the application part, and you feel that UPSC has cracked that code?
Yes.
The middle path of
See, it is simple. When you are reading earthquake is something basics. Now application of that is when you make the application, like how do you make a settlement? How do you construct a dams in that area, right? So earthquake prone areas. So that application is required, and they are phrasing the questions in the same format.
If geography could give, one life lesson to aspirants, what would that be?
No, every aspect of geography is something which is giving a lessons. I'll give an example. When you talk about a river, so river is very soft. When it is flowing down, it falls on the rocks, right? So ultimately keeps on cutting the rocks, and lastly it will reach to its destination called as ocean. So persistence is required to reach the destination. So this is one such example, right? So it always is full of examples where they will give you the life lessons in that. This is one such example in that.
Oh, great. So they don't need to go for motivation on Instagram and
geography
YouTube.
itself is a motivation.
Geography itself is a motivation. That's great. Well said, sir. Thank you so much, sir. I mean, geography does teach you one thing, that everything is connected, right? And in UPSC too, everything that you study eventually comes together. So I'm Anubhav Saransh, and this is the GS Room, where the curious meets the serious. Jai Hind.